Welcome to Rewired Inspired, the space where transformation begins. I am your host, Elena Petrescu. Today, you're in for something truly special. I am joined by Dallisa Hocking, and Dallisa is a fifth generation psychic medium, educator, and consciousness guide whose work centers on one core belief. Lasting clarity doesn't come from being told what to do. It comes from learning how to listen to yourself. Rather than positioning intuition as something to outsource, Dalisa teaches people how to build inner literacy. Her philosophy is simple and radical in today's spiritual landscape. The goal is not dependence on readings, predictions, or external authority. Her self awareness, discernment, and the ability to navigate life from within. She teaches people how to fish so the skills they learn continue to serve them long after any single session, class, or insight. Her work bridges intuition, consciousness, studies, and imagery based inquiry, helping individuals understand how perception, belief, and inner imagery shape lived experiences. Through group classes, certifications, and community based learning, Dalisa guides people in developing intuition as a practical, repeatable skill, one grounded in reflection, pattern recognition, and self trust. With trainings from teachers including Tony Robbins, Dr. Raymond Moody, John Holland, and Lee Harris, alongside certifications in energy mastery, mediumship, and advanced tarot studies, Dalisa brings both depth and discipline to her work. She also holds a BA from UNLV, a woman's entrepreneurship certificate from Cornell University, and is a graduate of the Golden Sachs 10,000 Small Business Programs. At the heart of Dalisa's work is a quiet but powerful reorientation of modern spirituality away from predictions and performance and towards consciousness, curiosity, and inner authority. Her mission is not to give answers, but to help people ask better questions, trust their perception, and live from a place of informed, embodied self leadership. Larissa, welcome to the show.
Wow, I'm sorry I made you read all of that. That was so long, but but I appreciate it.
Well, I want to capture you because you do such a beautiful work, and I didn't want to leave anything out at all. So I'm
Thank you.
very excited to have you on the show. I usually start with the story, and I know you are a fifth generation psychic medium. My question is, how and when did you realize that you have this gift? You
It was
want to?
actually, oh yeah, much later in life.
Okay.
I did not think that this was a gift that I had. I knew my grandmother had it. Later, as I started to grow up, I realized my dad had it. Um, but I didn't think that this was my journey. And I actually didn't find that out until 2015. So before that, I had owned different businesses. I had worked in the casino industry in Las Vegas. At the time in 2015, I was a dating coach and a matchmaker. I had started my own company and I decided very last minute I was going to go on a trip to New York to the Omega Institute, and I was going to attend a class on synchronicity. A group of people had decided to get together and do a weekend workshop on how they had basically proven that there were no accidents, that everything happened for a reason.
Mhm.
And it's so ironic because on that trip, that's when everything changed. So the last night of my trip, I was staying at a friend's house in New York, and I didn't know his family. I knew him through a work project, but think of him fondly. And he said, "Come on over, we'll have dinner." So I went over to his house and stayed the night in his guest bedroom. Right before bedtime, the phone rang. and his family called to deliver the news that his aunt had died unexpectedly. She had fallen down a flight of stairs that day. And of course, I feel terrible about it and give my friend my condolences. We go off to our separate rooms. And that night while I was sleeping, in the dream state, the astral state, his aunt, who I'd never met, never seen before, came to me while I was sleeping. And through the use of telepathy, she said, "Please tell my nephew I'm okay. I made it to the other side." And I could see what she looked like, see what her hair looked like, everything. And so the next morning, I woke up and thought, oh, wow, I have a big message I need to deliver. But I was also in a state of shock because I'd never had it happen like that before. And I go into the kitchen, I deliver the message, I describe what she looks like. My friend was shocked, but also very open to it, thankfully. And I flew back home that day and my mind wouldn't stop. Like I knew that everything had changed. And I sat with a question of, well, if this Aunt Barbara, who I've never met, could come through, are there other things like my grandmother used to tell me about? Are there other people or information? So I started pulling that thread and really practicing it and working it like a muscle. I actually tried to and successfully replicated the environment I was in New York when I was actually in Texas. That's where I was living at the time. I replicated it from the workshop and could channel from that point forward. And I've never looked back. It's never stopped in almost 11 years now. But yeah, it comes from my dad's side of the family. And my grandmother would also tell me stories about her grandmother, Belle, who would also see spirits and get downloads. So it's been in the family for a really long time, but this was not in my plans for what I was going to do for a profession.
So it kind of happened unexpectedly, right?
Yeah.
I know you also work now since we talk about spirits, you mentioned spirits. I know you worked on mysterious cases like deaths and cold cases, and you provided people with a lot of answers, but also closure. Do you want to talk to us about that a little bit?
Yeah. It's a hard part of the work. It was one part really hard because of the emotional piece, the emotional toll it takes on you looking at those cases. But the other part of it is this feeling of it being rewarding because when I would work on missing persons or um, mysterious deaths, I felt like I was really using my gifts for something really good. And
Yes.
so I look at those experiences fondly and I welcome opportunities, to do that again. But I've done it both for private clients, but I've also done it for example, a private investigator who is working on several cases. She hired me, this was years ago, to look at someone's passing. And the way that she was utilizing my gifts was if she was on the right track. So I would usually just have a headshot of the person, a photo of their face and their first name. And then I would start channeling on it and see what I get. And then I would give her everything that I channeled, and she could find out if she was wasting her time going down the wrong path. And so those cases were really fascinating. And I'm very squeamish. Like I don't like looking at people when they cut their finger or anything. I get like really uh squeamish about it. But what I found interesting about using my gifts for different investigations, like murder investigations, is that when I looked at photos of the person, the crime scene, I could look at it and I didn't react in the same way. Like I could use my gifts to kind of over jump it, like supersede it, where I didn't get caught up in any of the bodily things that I was seeing. And so I think my gifts just allowed me to just see it as it was without me as the human having a reaction to it. So it's almost like I could step aside or apart from who I am as a person and look at the autopsy photos or whatever else I was looking at. But yeah, those have been really interesting. And I've also looked at famous people as well and channeled on a lot of celebrities that have passed away
Oh, wow.
and different like mysterious circumstances around people. So yeah, it's kind of like being a storyteller, but using this extrasensory gift to help tell the story. Instead of watching a movie screen and repeating back that story, I'm seeing this vision in my mind of what this person is doing or what they want me to know. So it's been an interesting journey so far.
I absolutely. And how do they actually, is it telepathically that they give you the messages, or how do they actually communicate with you? Just for the listeners to have an idea, and even for myself.
I am beyond blessed to be able to access all psychic abilities because most of the time, because I do a lot of training and classes for people that want to develop their psychic abilities. And I usually tell my students, like, focus on one way of doing it. And if you happen to get a second way that the communication is coming through, like, amazing, great. But I really warn people against trying to become like an overachiever of having all of the gifts. I think it's how I'm hardwired. I think how the gift has been passed down through the family. But my two, three primary ones will be clairvoyance. And it looks like a symbol, an image, a photo, a mini movie that looks like a daydream that plays out in front of my face. My grandmother could actually see things with her physical eyes. And it
Wow.
scared me when I was little. So I think it's why I see it like a daydream because it feels safer, even though it's totally safe. I also will hear words and phrases, and it feels like it passes over my right ear. I will feel things in my body. So there's been many, many times over the years that when I'm communicating with someone that's passed away, they will have me feel something in my physical body that is connected to something they were feeling in their physical body, or it could be connected to how they passed away. Sometimes things just drop in, which is the claircognizance. It's like you just know what you know. So I would say those are the primary ones that I've had and use all the time. But I have had unique experiences. One, for example, there's a psychic gift called clairalienance, and it's actually clear smelling. It's when you smell like perfume of somebody that's passed away, a cigarette or a cigar or something like that. Well, again, giving an example of how this works, Dallisa, do not have a good sense of smell. I rarely smell anything. But I was on my way years ago. I had to drive across town. I was living in Las Vegas at the time. And I was getting ready to show up at a woman's house. She had hired me to do a group reading. And this was very early on when I first started doing readings. So I'm in my car driving across town and I say to Spirit, okay, Spirit, give me something I can walk into this group reading with. Like I want to make them like believe me, right? Like and I start seeing in my mind's eye and hearing the word popcorn. And I thought, oh my God, oh no, this is going to go so bad. Popcorn, popcorn, popcorn. Okay, popcorn. Great. So, all right, Spirit, please show me something. Going back to the original question. And inside of my car, I actually started smelling popcorn out of nowhere.
Wow.
And I thought, huh, all right, this obviously means something. So I show up to the event, the house, and the group of people were all sitting around, and I said, listen, this is what happened on the way over here. I'm just gonna say it. And so I tell them what I just told you. And in that moment, I felt a deceased hat rub up against my leg. I have chills as I'm even telling the story. And these two women who I've never met before started crying. And I thought,
Wow.
oh my God, okay, I should never doubt spirit ever again, right?
Yes.
So, as it turns out, the two women were sisters. One of them was at home with her husband one night, and they decided to make popcorn in their popcorn machine. They go to bed, the popcorn machine lit on fire, burned their house down, and killed their cat. It's like,
Wow.
if I would have never have said popcorn, we wouldn't have had that experience. Like I imagine that they never doubted it ever again, that they're being watched and guided, from a higher source, the universe. So that's an example of how scent can also be an indicator of someone that's around or a piece of information that you need to have.
And that's how the spirits communicate with you. I always hear this phrase that we are all psychic, we just don't know how to. What would you say to people who, they want to develop this? What would be the steps? What would be the guidance that you would give them so that they could actually develop one gift? Like, um, do you want to, go through that a little?
Yeah, the first thing that people have to do is be willing to do it. They have to have an open mind. They have to believe they can do it. Because if they don't think they can, they're right. So if they're
Mhm.
saying, "Oh, who am I? Oh, spirit would never talk to me." Like, no, 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 no. We all have this. It's all within us. We just have to develop it. Just like, sometimes we see a video of a 3-year-old who's a genius playing the piano. They came out of the womb being able to play the piano, basically. And we just look at them and go, wow, that's so amazing that you can do this. But the real fact of the matter is, anyone can do what that 3-year-old is doing. They just have to practice and be willing to put in the time and the effort to do it. So anybody can develop it. It's a muscle, just like anything else. So you have to, one, be willing to say, I'm worthy of doing this. I can do this. I have this within me. And then start taking the steps to actually practice it. So at first, I would say, practice things at home with yourself. Guided meditations, I'd say do a guided meditation every day, 5, 10, 20 minutes, and allow yourself to be in that space of listening to a guided meditation. Guided meditation is probably one of the quickest ways to allow your intuition to be louder and to start bringing forward information on behalf of yourself or other people. So, doing meditation, do you have to do it? No, I'm not going to make anyone do anything. But if you want the quickest way, it's going to be doing a daily guided meditation from your favorite person. There's a lot of great meditation teachers out there, a lot of free ones on the Insight Timer app, or you can go on YouTube and find a lot of great meditations. And then I would get out a pen and paper and every day. So I'd meditate first, and then I'd get the piece of paper. And at the top, I would write something to the effect of spirit team. That can be your guides, your angels, other loved ones. Spirit team, what do I need to know today?
Mhm.
And then write everything that you're seeing, feeling, hearing, sensing, dump it out, all of it on the piece of paper. Don't judge it. And then I would keep that piece of paper, but like put it off to the side, maybe put it in a drawer somewhere. And if you do that every single day, you will build that muscle between you and your spirit team, and you'll be able to have more of your own superpowers of intuition. But you also, that is the pathway I would say to somebody that wanted to do it professionally, is to start there. The other piece of this that's really important, it's a frequency match. So spirit is like way up here, right? And humans are kind of down here on any given day. If you're in a bad mood, you're going to be lower than that. But we all kind of bounce a little bit down here on the scale. So spirit is way up here. And if you want to do mediumship, like connecting with people that have passed away, you have to get your own frequency high enough so that it's more of a frequency match so that you can open up that dial, that space where they can come in and communicate with you. Mediumship frequency is higher. than psychic frequency. So it's why you often will see a lot of people that are psychic or card readers that say, I'm psychic and this is what I'm getting. But if you want to do mediumship, you have to get it even higher. It's just the way that it's built on the other side and the frequency that people are at on the other side. So, how do you raise your own frequency?
Yeah.
I'm sure that's what you and maybe other people are thinking as they hear
Thinking,
about this. I would think about it like this. What do people often tell us to do to be healthier? It would be drinking more water, being hydrated. It would be getting plenty of sleep at night, maybe going on walks outside. Heck, if you can do it in nature, even better. So, all of the things that we're told to do to live a healthy lifestyle actually raises our frequency. So, I know there's conversations that have happened also with people where they will not take any kind of drugs or alcohol because those will lower the frequency. Um, and I would say if there's somebody that is drinking alcohol and practicing with spirits, there's a reason they call it spirits. If they're practicing, I would say be very careful because alcohol brings your frequency down. So you may actually attract in frequency if you're drinking and practicing this that are lower frequencies and not necessarily the ones that you would want hanging around you. So I would just be very mindful. I would not practice like the meditation and the writing and everything like that unless you really feel good, you feel awake, aware, happy. That's when I would say, great, you should do it then. The other thing I want to mention quickly is the way you get really good at this is you have to practice on people you don't know. And people maybe, well, how do I find those people? Right. So I would recommend, like, I have a community that I put together and we have a Discord group and people can go in there and practice with each other. Um, but I think it's really hard actually to read people you know. One, you might not want to read them because you're open up a can of worms, but you're actually too close to them to read it and read accurately most of the time. So when you read a stranger, your brain doesn't get involved because your
different.
brain doesn't know anything about them. So if you're reading a stranger, everything that comes in is part of the message for that person. So it's
Yes.
much easier actually to read somebody you've never met before versus trying to find something out for yourself or trying to find something out for your friend or your mom or your sister. So I would practice on people you don't know, and that will really build the muscle quickly.
Wow, that's beautiful. You mentioned angels, and I know you love talking about angels because you work with them all the time. How does angels give us messages? How can someone know, okay, this is a message from my angels? Because I know we all have angels and they are assigned to protect us. So how do we receive those messages from them?
They love talking to us in a variety of ways. So one thing that they'll do, I often associate them with feathers. So if you are in a space, you're walking down the street and you see a feather and you're like, this is weird that this feather is here, I would pay attention to that. I had an experience years ago, right after my grandfather had passed away. And I was communicating with him and I just felt this energy come into my space. I was on my computer and I got up from my computer. I had to go into the other room. I came right back and I came back and there was a feather sitting on the keyboard of the computer that I was just using moments before.
Wow.
Angels often will come in with loved ones that have passed away. And so I like to differentiate that our loved ones are not, at least in my experience, they are not angels, but they are a part of our spirit team that can help us and guide us. And we can ask them, show me a sign. But angels actually feel very different. Angels feel light like a feather. So they'll drop us signs like feathers. I notice our loved ones usually will send us coins, and that's coming in for, I'm sure somebody needs to hear that in your audience. And coins are becoming less and less used in the world. And
Yes.
so they'll become even more and more rare when we see one. Angels will also use numbers. So, what I tell people with this, because a lot of people listening will go, oh, yeah, I see 11s, I see 22s or 30, 33, 44. I think that's amazing. And I do believe that angels communicate with us through numbers. So, how do you know if it's something from an angel or not? I would trust your intuition on it. I would not be overly looking for the number 22 everywhere you go all day long. When it's a sign from an angel letting you know that you are guided, you're protected, you're loved, it's going to feel like it kind of just comes out of nowhere. But if you're overly looking for it, you'll probably find a lot of 22s during your day, right? But it's the times where you're like, wow, that just came out of nowhere. That's when I would really, really pay attention. I think it is absolutely fine to set an intention. Maybe it's when you're doing your journaling and your meditation. Set that intention. Say something to the effect of, my spirit team speaks with me today, or every day I get a message from my spirit team. And just open that connection and be open to how it comes through, because you might be looking for 22s and there's an angel dropping coins all over your pathway that you're not seeing. So keep an open mind, but trust your gut. If you feel like it's unexpected, then it's probably a member of your spirit team, including your guardian angel and other secondary angels that are letting you know that they're around.
Now, do you mentioned intuition? Now, what happens because many people sometimes struggle to trust their intuition for different reasons. Um, what would you say to that?
Your intuition could literally save your life these days. There's going to be so much more volatility in the world that when you have a strong intuition with yourself and you believe it and you lean into it, I honestly think it can prevent accidents. I think it can prevent you from being in a place you're not supposed to be at. And I have chills going through my whole body as I say that to you. So I know there's people that need to hear that today. Um, I get asked a lot from people, well, how do I know it's my intuition?
Mhm.
Like, is it my fear? Is it my anxiety? Is it my intuition? So, fear and anxiousness and ego and the brain feel very different than intuition. Intuition is going to feel softer. It's going to feel like it's just kind of your essence showing up, dropping in, giving you a piece of information. The opposite is true for fear, and the energy is typically this urgency. When it's your fear, your brain, your ego, it's like, hurry up, hurry up. Who are you to do that? Blah, 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 blah. It almost like yells at you. It can yell at you. It can make you feel like you're making a huge mistake. So if
Mm.
there's this urgency to it that feels like they're screaming at you, that is probably not your spirit team and it's probably not your intuition. Your intuition is going to be like a friend showing up to help you. So you can even ask, like, is this vision, these words, these feelings, these things that I'm getting, does it feel like a kind friend that's showing up to help me? Or does this feel like somebody nagging at me or yelling at me about something? So it's important to trust that calm voice or that calm nudge that comes in that also will feel most of the time like it came out of nowhere. So, an example of this could be you're making breakfast, you're getting ready to get in the car and go to work. And just before you leave the house, you get this sense that there's going to be an accident and you need to take a different road to
Road.
work.
Mm.
Yeah. And you listen to that and you lean into that and you take a different route. And then you find out later there was a horrible accident that you weren't in the middle of because you took a different way to work. So, were you necessarily thinking about a car accident as you were getting ready to leave the house? No. but it dropped in to say, we're protecting you. But it has beautiful, calm strength to it. And that's the ones that you want to lean into and pay attention to.
Right now, yes. So awareness is very big about this, listening to within you. Now, Dallisa, we are going through a lot of tough, turbulent times. So a lot of people are stressed, overwhelmed, they're looking for peace, they're looking for clarity. How does that affect their intuition? And what can you say to us, or is there a message from the guides, from your angels, that could bring some clarity to the listeners with all the turbulence that's happening right now in the world?
When we are plugged into news or a friend or a loved one who's constantly talking about how everything's falling apart and that makes us feel fearful, I would say watch what you're plugged into, meaning how much time are you on social media? How much time are you watching the news? How much time are you spending with the friend that's always talking about how the world's falling apart? Because the more time that you can get just with you by yourself in your own energy, and you do things that help to lift you up, like going on walks or self care or making a delicious meal that you're going to enjoy at home, like doing things that help you remember that you are human and that you're going to get through this because there's so much fear and panic and control and power that it's running through the world that it can be really easy to get hooked into a spiral of fear, of panic, of feeling like things are going to fall apart. And so those energies are very real, but you don't have to be in that spiral and that frequency all the time. We're humans. We're going to feel upset about some things as they're happening and as we see these stories, but it's about not staying in that frequency because the frequency that you have, which we hope is happy and calm and peaceful and feeling fulfilled, that is the frequency you're vibrating at. So everyone and everywhere you go, anyone you come into contact with, over the phone or in person or on the computer, they are going to feel your energy, whether they know that or not, or if they don't know how to articulate that, they still are feeling your vibration. So when everything is going wrong in different parts of the world and in different sectors of life, your personal frequency matters because if you feel guilty about having a good life because you're seeing people that are starving or you're seeing, war torn countries and you feel guilty about being happy, that guilt is going to lower your frequency. So now everyone and everything you come into contact with will feel that lower frequency. So if you actually want to help your community, your neighbor, the world around you, you have to start with your own personal energy. And it has to be radiating at a higher frequency that feels peaceful, that feels happy or content. And that is what you will end up rippling out into the world. So that's really important to hear that. We don't have to stay in fear, but we are the only ones that can change that for ourselves. Because even if we tap into something outside of ourselves that makes us feel good, it's temporary. And so you've got to sustain that peace within yourself, which is why we've been talking about how to raise your frequency and all the different
Yes.
things to try. Um, but yeah, Spirit has actually brought through an interesting message. I've channeled a lot for many, many years. And I've actually been channeling about the time we are in right now
Okay.
very, very heavily for probably the last 3 years. So I could feel all of it coming. I knew that everything was going to be dismantled. I knew that we were never going back to the life that we had before, and that every system that we're involved with, whether it's healthcare, education, our jobs, all of it is going to change. And so I could feel that all coming. And I kept telling everyone, go stock up on food and water and whatever you need at home if you have to stay at home. I was early because I just kept saying it over and over and over again. So now it's like, yeah, everybody should be doing that, right? But not out of fear. doing it and having extra supplies just because you will have more flexibility. It means you won't have to try to get to the store when everyone else is trying to get to the store. So I would have extra supplies on hand. Spirit has been clear, though, to say there's going to be a lot of big, heavy news stories. There's going to be a lot of things happening around the world that is probably going to be the worst things we've ever seen. But we as an individual do not have to go through those same experiences. So, yes, there will be people that will be affected by the things that we will see and hear about. But I also think that we don't have to be in the doom and gloom energy all the time. Spirit's bringing this in, so I'm going to say it. Going back to what I said a minute ago, if you are supposed to go somewhere for an event or like a parade or something like that, if there's something about going that feels off, just doesn't feel right, please trust that because I do think there will be more attacks, and that we will see them in the United States. We will see them in Europe. There's going to be a lot unfolding, and it's going to be really, really crucial that we all listen to that inner voice inside of us. But I do think there's going to be a lot of opportunities for people, meaning I feel like there's going to be a new level of resourcefulness and resilience that we've never seen before. And people will be starting all different kinds of projects and businesses. And it really feels like the individual can prosper through all of this, but it's going to look like the opposite of what we're seeing in the headlines. So I've heard this before where, when there's an economic downturn or the market crashes, there's always people that do really well when those things happen. But Spirit has made me feel like it's even on a bigger level than that, where you and everybody can prosper. And so when we see the news story about the stock market crashing, when we see a news story about us moving into digital currency, when we see a news story about the latest weapon that was just set off, when we see how the jobs are declining, we see layoffs, all of that feels like it's part of this package that is quickly emerging. It's going to be so critically important that we don't get swept up into those news stories, but we go back to ourselves and remember we have everything we need inside of us to get through anything. We're going to have to be creative. We're going to have to be scrappy. We are going to have to be more resilient than we probably ever have before, but we will get through it. But it's going to take dedication and keeping our hearts and our minds open, but we will have amazing blessings to each of us if we can stay that course. But if not, if we get too wrapped up in the fear and we stay there, it could feel very, very heavy for a long stretch of time.
Yes. And hopefully, I mean, I know that we need to keep ourselves grounded and not get sucked into the social media that is really fake news most of the time. They only put out there what they want you to hear, not really the truth. And when do you see all these beautiful things coming to fruition? And, I've heard from others that this year is a crucial year. A lot of things are gonna take place, and do everything you can to be in the moment, make yourself feel good in that moment. And so many people are curious to know, okay, when is this going to pass? When can we say, okay, now things are unfolding in the humanity's favor? What
I
does
think
Spirit say about that?
yeah, it's gonna take a while. Um, we can unlock prosperity and all that within ourselves at any time. But if we're looking at it like the world and humanity, I think it's gonna take us years. I've been shown early 2030s as a massive, like, look back point where we get to the early 2030s and go, "Whoa, everything we've been through." we won't recognize our day-to-day life as what it feels like. It just feels completely different. But I think there's going to be a lot of people that will decide, or they'll be forced to because of where they live more off grid, more where they're living in a smaller home that maybe they built. I think there's going to be more and more of that, and people not living in the cities. I think the cities are going to see so much volatility and crime that more and more people just not want to live in the cities. And I do think some of these attacks will be in major cities because they want to create the most harm. And because people will feel on edge with that, I think they're just going to be moving more into the center of their country or away from major cities. It is probably going to look like a dark night of the soul over and over and over again, if that's what we're going to be focusing our attention on. So I think that's why it's so critical to talk about this stuff today, because we can feel it in our body. If we sit still long enough, we know when we have too much fear, panic, stress, agitation, like we know when we're in that state. And it is going to be up to each and every one of us independently to break ourselves out of that when we feel ourselves in that vibration. There's a book Mel Robbins wrote, The 5 Second Rule. And it's
Yes.
very, very simple. The book goes into all the details of why this works, but she says, when you don't want to do something, where
Yes.
you're feeling like, gosh, I know I need to go do that, but I just don't want to get up out of this chair. I don't want to get out of bed. She says, what you do in that moment is you count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And as you get to 1, you go and you do the thing. And it starts breaking these patterns and these cycles of anxiousness, of panic, of fear, and get you to go do the thing that you know would actually be better for you. So if you feel like you're stuck in that frequency, try the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
One.
And I think you'll see some good results from it. And Mel Robbins also has a great podcast. And there's always great insight on there to keep your mind and your vibration higher.
Yes, it's so important to keep your vibration higher and make yourself feel happy in the moment and stop listening and looking to what's happening out there. Um, One of the questions I know you're very familiar with angels, and what I want to ask you is, there is one angel that very few people may be familiar with, and I'm going to pronounce the name Seraphim, and this is
Mhm.
the angel that is the closest to the divine. And I feel that for people to get out of this fear and stay grounded, let go of that anxiety, is for them to learn how to communicate with angels so that maybe it will bring them peace, it will bring them clarity. How can they do that? If you can give us the wordings so someone can say, like you said earlier, Spirit, show me this. Or what would be the steps that you would guide someone in your course and say, this is what how I would ask the angels to communicate with me? Or if you want
Great
to go.
question. And I have had experiences with the seraphim. There's a energy modality actually called the Seraphim Blueprint. And there's all different kinds of classes about it, but it specifically works with that angel. So I've taken several of those classes, and whenever the seraph angel shows up, the energy is massive. It's probably the biggest energy of anything I've ever worked with. It just feels bigger than the house that you're in, or, So I would absolutely suggest working with a seraph. You can also work with archangels, and that's who I typically work with, are archangels. I would say the seraph energy usually comes in when there's something really critical or something intense that's being worked on. But for the most part, archangels are the ones that I say, "Come on in." So really, it is that simple. I would identify first which angel or archangel you wanna work with, and then call them by name. Call them by name, ask them to come to you, and tell them what you need help with. I do guided meditations all the time for groups where I'll call in, for example, Archangel Michael, and I'll say, Archangel Michael, please come into my space or into their space. And so anybody can do this for themselves. So, Archangel Michael, please come into my space now. What I personally like to do is, Archangel Michael, please open a portal of white light above my head. And with your energy and with your sword, please help me release anything that is no longer in my highest and best interest. And I will focus on my breath. And on the exhale, I am breathing out any energetic debris that I have, and I send it up into that white light to be dissolved. So that's what I do. It's very simple. Call them in, ask them to step in close, open the portal of white light. I keep my portal of white light open so I can just send energetic debris up there as needed, but people can leave it open or closed. It's totally up to them. But Archangel Michael's usually the one that does great work with energy releasing and rebalancing chakras. The other one that I work with a lot is Archangel Raphael, who helps with emotional and physical healing. And he's got a green energy. Michael has blue energy. But you can pull up lists online or read books about different kinds of archangels, and the lists will tell you what they help you with. And you can just call on one, ask them to come in, say what you need help with. But you got to trust that it's being heard.
Yes.
Because if you keep going back and saying the same thing and asking for the same thing, it's kind of a demonstration of fear or of lack or of scarcity, which is a lower frequency. So I would call in an archangel, ask for what you need help with, do it once, feel it, allow it, and then really within yourself, know from head to toe that it was heard, it was received, and it's being done. Because if you stay in that frequency of doubt, you'll probably still have the same kind of hiccups that you're having now. So I would say try to breathe out and release any doubt when you're doing it.
Great question. I have a question personally because I do hypnotherapy. So when I work with the client, I do ask for for the angels to come in and bring that white light energy. So should I just ask once, or because I'm doing it every session? Because the clients are different, they have different energy, different things we're dealing with. And then you mentioned you're always open to that white light. How can one stay constantly open? And am I doing it right or am I doing it wrong?
I would do it for each different person
Okay.
because the way I approach anything with client work is you set that intention at the beginning and that opens the energy and you call in that white light. And then you're working with them and then you close it. And so I would keep it open just for the duration of working with them. So then it's closed and then the next person comes in and then you would restart and then end with them. So I like that each is separate in its own separate sacred container. Yeah, I think we can keep the portal of white light above our head open all the time. And it's really just that intention that it's open,
Yeah.
it's there. But I use it for the energetic debris. When I want to raise my frequency, because we're living beings, so our frequency is always going to be fluctuating. But I typically, if I feel like I've been down in the dumps and I need to raise my frequency up, I imagine gold energy, like a ball of gold energy in front of my face, breathing it in and breathing it and putting it all over into my body, every cell of my body, around my physical body in all directions, basically so that I am inside of a ball of gold liquid, like I'm swimming in gold liquid. And that will also help to raise the frequency because we can't ignore things that happen in life or something bad that happened or a hard conversation that we had, but that'll bring sometimes the frequency back down. And so then we can lift it back up just by bringing that awareness of that gold energy into ourselves. And it's really helpful. And then, of course, doing what was described with Archangel Michael, too.
Beautiful. That is so much beautiful things that you shared. I have one more question is If the angels could give one message to humanity right now, what what would they want us to hear?
Ooh, let me go into a channeling frequency and just see what comes up because I want to do it in real time. Okay. And it'll give people an idea of how I do this. All right. So I call forward my spirit team of beings of the highest frequency, dimension, and light. And I invite the angels to step forward and the seraph. Thank you. He must have heard us talking about him because his energy popped in. I haven't seen him in a while, but I also haven't asked specifically for him to come in. His energy is massive. Okay.
I get chills.
Yeah, it's like dizzying with him here. It's not a bad thing, but it just feels like so big that I almost feel a bit dizzy with him here. Okay. So let's call forward a message for humanity. What would you want people listening to this to know and remember at this time? Don't give your power away. They're showing me this beautiful grid of light inside of each and every one of us. And that there have been many people on earth that have been giving their own power to other people, to forces outside of themselves. But you have everything that you need inside of you if you focus on your wants, your needs, what the priorities of your family unit are, because there will be an escalation of noise. There will be people trying to grab more power on their way out. And they will be looking for people that are afraid because they feel like people that are afraid are easy to manipulate and control. So trust your intuition. Trust in who it is that you are supposed to be around or in communication with. There will be false flags. There will be manipulation in words. There will be lies in news stories. It may be hard for humans to understand what the truth is in this year and in the coming years. But the one thing that they can't take away from you is that inner divinity that you have. You already have within you the wiring to understand things in the unseen, things just beyond your normal senses. It is already there. And they can't take that from you as long as your frequency is high enough. So do the best that you can to stay out of fear. They're showing me now that fear is an energy that eats other energy. And so when we are in a state of fear, it's like we're bringing on this entity of sorts that's hosting on our energy, feeding on our energy. And so that's an illustration I feel that the angels want to bring forward today, not to scare people, but they were given the opportunity to deliver a message. And it feels like they are very serious tone to what they're bringing through. And I'm feeling the sensation of like, don't mess around. Take the time that we're in right now seriously. And the angels also want to remind people that you chose to incarnate during this specific time because of the things that would need to be rebuilt. That you're a part of the way showers, you're a part of the group of people that will be leading others to their deeper sovereignty. And so as we step into this day and the next day and the next day, Your light, the light that you hold within you, that peace that you have, they just keep saying in my ear, keep going back to that ripple of peace, because how you feel in your body, how you feel about the blessing that life is, that will have a huge impact on the world. And with enough people doing it, there will be a tipping point where then the light really does take over the world in a bigger, more public way. But you are here for a reason. And if you hear this message, remember that you were born with a unique gift. Each and every human has a unique gift. It's about allowing it to come into full force now and to use it for the greater good of all. You are loved. You are never alone. We stand with you. And then I just heard amen in my ear.
It's such a beautiful message. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for
Thank you for
bringing
having me.
this message to the collective. I think everybody needs to hear this. Dallisa, last question. Do you have anything in the pipeline that you want to share with the listeners if they want to contact you? Because I know you have beautiful courses, you do so many beautiful meditations, where they can find you.
Yeah, everything's over on my website, including my social medias where I do live streams and whatever class or anything special I'm hosting, it's always on the website. So go check there, and there's a free gift on there, a 10-minute reset that you can actually download to your own device. You can do it anywhere you want to do it. And that's over on the homepage. So just go over to spiritandspark.com, all spelled out, and everything will be there.
Beautiful. Are you working on anything special that you know you'll bring out in the future that listeners can know about? Do you have
Yeah.
anything that I know you're always evolving?
I'm always kind of developing something. I'm a Gemini rising, so my brain is like always thinking about like the next thing I'm going to do. I'm going to be doing more with live streaming, and I'm really excited about that. I had to be honest about, what do I want to do? And I love connecting with people in real time. And I have one live stream show that I just started that will be on Wednesdays, that it's called Let's Talk About It. And we're going to talk about everything that's happening in the world. We're not going to ignore it, but we are going to work on things that keep our frequency high. So I give tips and things to try, and we breathe together. And then on Thursdays, brand new stream is going to be starting. And that one, I'll give your audience a little bit of a hint. It's going to combine oracle cards, a message from the universe, a positive affirmation, and something really cool in the mail.
Wow, that's so beautiful. And they can find all of this at your spiritandspark.com.
Yes.
Beautiful. Dallisa, I'm so happy to have you on my show. I'm so grateful. And I want to say thank you. I think you've brought so much to this episode, and I feel so many people need to listen to what you had to say and really implement certain things that you shared.
Thank you, Elena. I appreciate it. I enjoyed our conversation today, and I trust that the people who needed to hear it are going to hear it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.